My sister sent me a wedding registry with a mansion, 2 luxury cars, a Rolex, and a cash fund. When I only chose one, she said, pick them all or don't come. That's when I canceled everything. My name is Nora, and this all started just 5 months after my husband Ethan passed away. He was 56, 15 years older than me, but he was my soulmate. We met when I was 23, me just starting out in teaching, him already running a growing architectural firm. We married quickly, and for nearly 2 decades, we built a life filled with love, laughter, and eventually a son, Leo, now 20, and studying computer science on the West Coast. Ethan fought leukemia for almost 3 years. I left my full-time job during that time to be his caregiver. Watching someone fade away day after day changes you in ways you can't explain. I was there when he took his final breath, holding my hand against his chest as if refusing to let go. After the funeral, I discovered just how much Ethan had left me. He had been careful planning for me and Leo. There was our main home in a quiet suburb we'd lived in for 12 years, a downtown condo. We once rented out a small cabin near the mountains where we'd escape on weekends, 2 cars, a Jaguar and a Lexus, and a little over $2 million spread across accounts. I promised myself 2 things: keep our home because it carried too many memories, to abandon and protect Ethan's legacy for Leo's future. Marriage. Numb. Ethan was my one great love. I wasn't looking to replace him. Instead, I poured energy into a foundation for leukemia research and took on part-time consulting. Work gave me routine, and volunteering gave me meaning. Everything was steady until one Sunday morning when my parents called. Mom's voice was bright but firm. Sweetheart, we need to talk about your sister, Emily. She's my little sister, 10 years younger, at 31, the so-called star of the family. She'd always been the pretty one, the carefree one, the one my parents adored. Growing up, I was the serious one, while Emily was the golden girl. And now she was getting married to her fiancé, Chris. Dad chimed in. They're planning something really special, and, well, weddings cost a fortune. We thought you might help out. I sighed, already sensing where this was going. Okay, I'll talk to her. When I called Emily, she squealed like a teenager. Nora. Oh my God, I'm so glad you called. Did Mom tell you the wedding is going to be magical? For the next 20 minutes, she rattled off her vision: a full ceremony at the Grand Oaks Country Club. 200 guests, a designer gown from Milan, a live orchestra, a luxury car rental for the bridal party, the whole production. Emily. I interrupted gently. That sounds beautiful, but do you know how much this is going to cost? She laughed. That's why I'm calling you. I mean, you have more than enough now. There it was, the entitlement laid bare. I kept my voice calm. I'll give you $40,000 for the wedding. That's a very generous gift. The rest you and Chris can figure out with his parents and Mom and Dad. Her excitement deflated instantly. 40, that's it. Yes, Emily, that's it. She mumbled thanks and hung up, clearly unsatisfied. I followed through, immediately set up a separate account, put $40,000 in it, and gave Emily limited access. At Sunday dinner, I announced it in front of everyone. That's my wedding gift. $40,000. The rest is up to you. My parents exchanged disapproving glances, but I stood firm. For weeks afterward, I thought things had settled. I focused on Leo's updates from college. He'd joined a robotics team, made good friends, even had a crush on a girl in his dorm. My charity work kept me busy. Life felt manageable again. Then one Tuesday morning, while sipping coffee, I opened an email from Emily. The subject line read, "Wedding gift list. Confirm ASAP." I wasn't prepared for what I saw. The list wasn't flowers or a blender or even an expensive honeymoon. It was 5 outrageous items. The downtown condo, the Jaguar, the mountain cabin, Ethan's Rolex, which he wore every single day, a 2-week honeymoon in Bora Bora, first-class flights included. I blinked, thinking I'd misread it. But no, it was exactly what it looked like. My sister had turned her wedding registry into a demand for property worth over $1 million. I felt heat rising in my chest. Of all things, the Rolex cut the deepest. Ethan had worn it through chemo, through board meetings, through our son's childhood milestones. I had always planned to give it to Leo when he graduated. Part of me wanted to call Emily and unleash the fury boiling inside me. But I knew how it would go. She'd cry, Mom and Dad would call within the hour, and I'd be painted the villain. So instead, I stared at that list for a long time, remembering every moment of my life when Emily's needs were placed above mine. When I was 16 and working 2 part-time jobs, most of my paycheck went to her dance lessons. When I got into college, my parents barely celebrated. They were too busy fussing over Emily's latest recital. And when I got married, I paid for my entire wedding alone because, as Mom said at the time, well, Ethan can afford it. Why would we help? Now here she was, grown woman, engaged, still expecting me to hand over everything. I closed the laptop, sat back, and whispered to myself, this ends now. When I finally replied to Emily's outrageous email, I chose my words carefully. Emily, I've already given you $40,000 for the wedding. That was my gift. However, I'm willing to also pay for your honeymoon trip to Bora Bora. That's my final offer. I figured maybe that would quiet her. I closed my laptop, trying to breathe away the anger. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed with her response. That's not how this works, Nora. I need all of these things, not just one. Pick them all or don't bother showing up. I read the message 3 times. Disbelief morphing into fury. She wasn't asking anymore, she was demanding. I dialed her number immediately. She answered on the second ring, her voice already defensive. Nora, why are you making this so hard? You have everything. I have nothing. I tried to keep calm. Emily, do you even hear yourself? You're asking me to hand over property worth hundreds of thousands of dollars plus Dad's watch. That Rolex is going to Leo, not you. Her tone shifted shrill. But I'm getting married. This is supposed to be the happiest time of my life. Don't you want to help your little sister? You have plenty with the $40,000. Most people would be grateful for that. There was a pause. Then she dropped the hammer. Fine, either you give me all 5 things on that list or don't bother coming to my wedding. My stomach turned. You're giving me an ultimatum over money. You don't understand, she snapped. It's not even your money. Ethan died and left you everything. You didn't earn it. You just got lucky your sick husband kicked the bucket. Her words cut like knives. My hands shook. She wasn't just insulting me, she was spitting on Ethan's memory. Don't you ever talk about Ethan like that again, I whispered. Then I hung up. For a few moments, I sat frozen in silence. The rage bubbling in my chest finally broke through. I opened my banking app and revoked her access to the wedding account. Then I called every vendor she'd paid with that money and canceled each deposit, the venue, the caterer, the florist, all of it. Within 20 minutes, Emily's dream wedding had collapsed. The next morning, when I turned my phone back on, it exploded with notifications. 39 missed calls, dozens of texts. Emily's messages started frantic. What did you do then? Spiraled into rage. You ruined my wedding. This is my money. You're a vindictive witch, and Mom and Dad are going to make you fix this. Then came messages from my parents. Call us immediately. This is unacceptable. I didn't answer. Instead, I went out to my garden. Ethan and I had planted roses there 3 years earlier. As I pulled weeds, I whispered to him, I did it, love. I finally cut her off, but peace didn't last. That evening, I heard cars pulling into my driveway. I looked out the window, my parents' silver sedan and Emily's white SUV. They didn't knock. Emily stormed in, still holding the spare key I'd once trusted her with. My parents followed, faces tight with fury. Emily pointed at me. Give me back the account access, now. I stood still, voice low. No. Mom stepped forward, using my full name like I was still 12. Nora Ann, enough games. Fix this immediately. Your sister's wedding is in 3 months. I didn't ruin her wedding. She did that when she demanded my condo, my cabin, Ethan's Rolex. I was upset, Emily cried. You were being selfish. Then I turned to my parents. You knew about her list, didn't you? Mom's lips tightened. Of course. I helped her make it. You've been living comfortably all these years because of Ethan. It's your responsibility to help your sister get her start. My chest felt like it might split open. Responsibility. You think my job is to hand over everything Ethan worked for? Dad crossed his arms. Emily deserves a good wedding and a solid start in life. You have more than enough to share. I looked at the 3 of them standing in my living room, demanding that I carve up my husband's legacy like a buffet. Get out, I said quietly. Emily's face twisted. You're just jealous because I'm getting married and you'll be alone forever. Out now. You wouldn't dare kick us out, Dad sneered. I picked up my phone and dialed 911 in front of them. Only then did they storm out, slamming the door behind them. That should have been the end, but it wasn't. The following weeks, my phone rang non-stop. Aunts, uncles, cousins, every one of them parroting the same message. You're selfish. Family comes first. Help your sister. Even Aunt Karen, who had always been my closest ally, sighed over the phone. Nora, honey, I know Emily can be a bit demanding, but she's the baby. You've always been the strong one. You can afford to help her. I asked sharply, would you give your house away? Well, no, but your situation is different. Different. Always different when it came to Emily. I stopped answering family calls altogether. My phone became blissfully quiet until one day Leo called, his voice shaking. Mom, Grandma called me. My heart dropped. What did she say? She said if I don't convince you to help Aunt Emily, she's going to disown me. She said she won't help with college anymore and I won't be welcome at family gatherings. My hands clenched into fists. Leo, listen to me. Your grandmother isn't paying for your college. I am. She has no power over you. I told him everything, the list, Emily's ultimatum, the disgusting words about Ethan, the fact that my parents had helped her make the list. Leo was quiet for a while. Then he said, Mom, if they'd cut me off just because you won't give away Dad's things, then maybe I don't want a relationship with them anyway. Tears blurred my eyes. My son, only 20, had more sense than the rest of my family combined. I love you, Leo. I love you too, Mom. And I think Dad would be proud of you. That night, lying in bed, I stared at Ethan's photo on my nightstand. For the first time in months, I didn't feel crushed by grief. I felt something sharper, stronger. I whispered to the picture, I'm not letting them win. But I had no idea how much uglier it was going to get. They didn't argue with me after that night. They rewrote me. It started with whispers I wasn't meant to hear. A cousin posted a vague status about selfish widows hoarding wealth. An aunt commented, family comes first, some people forget. My name wasn't there, but everyone knew. My phone pinged with screenshots. Maya, my friend from the foundation, sent them with a single line, I'm on your side. In the family group chat, Mom had typed, Nora's grief made her unstable. We're worried. She canceled everything to punish Emily, Dad added. Ethan would want Nora to share. She's refusing basic decency, as if protecting my son's future was indecent. I stayed silent. Silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's aim. That afternoon, the wedding planner emailed me directly. Caroline, we'd never spoken. Hi, Nora. I hope you're all right. I'm reaching out because your mother told me you'd be signing the condo over as part of the wedding blessing. She scheduled a deed signing at the rehearsal dinner. I just wanted to confirm since vendors are planning around it. I closed my eyes and counted to 10. Then I wrote back, there will be no deed signing, no transfer. Please forward any communication where my name is used to promise assets. 15 minutes later, my inbox lit up with a chain. Mom to Caroline. Emily CC'd. The words were neat and cheerful. We're delighted to announce Nora's big surprise for the couple title paperwork for the downtown condo. Please prepare a small moment on the program. A surprise for my property, announced by someone else. I saved the thread. I printed it. I put a copy in a blue folder labeled Evidence. A habit from caregiving paper first, then feelings. 2 days passed. Emily's campaign grew. She told relatives I had promised the watch to her as a blessing for fertility. She said I changed my mind because I hate seeing her happy. The lies spread because people wanted them to be true. It's easier to resent a boundary than to build your own. Then Chris texted, Hi Nora, it's Chris. I know you don't owe me anything, but can we talk? I think some things happened behind my back. I stared at the message. He'd sent only once before, after the wedding photos, to be polite. I called him. His voice was cautious. I just found an email from your mom. She wrote to me a month ago about integrating assets. She told me to ask Emily to be firm with you. She also said if you get dramatic, to say you're dishonoring Ethan's memory by refusing. I swallowed. She used Ethan's name. She did. He cleared his throat. I didn't know about the list. I thought the registry was normal. I promise. Chris, I said quietly, you're marrying into a system. Please be clear about what you're willing to be part of. He sighed. I'm trying. When we hung up, I printed his forwarded email and slipped it into the blue folder. Validator, I thought. Not perfect, but finally someone who wasn't pretending. 16 working the evening shift at the grocery store, the one with scuffed linoleum and a price gun that left faint ink freckles on my fingers. I bagged produce by color so it looked pretty on the belt. Mr. Avery, the manager, with coffee breath and kind eyes, would slow walk past the time clock at 9:58 p.m. and whisper, "Take your time," because he'd seen the geometry book bulging my backpack. He'd let me clock the extra 8 minutes, never 10 enough to matter on a paycheck that month. At home, Mom flipped the envelope open at the kitchen table before I'd even hung my jacket. "Emily's recital fees are due," she said, already writing the check. "You're the strong one." It landed like praise and assignment in the same breath. Emily bounced in trailing glitter and the smell of hairspray twirling to show me a rhinestone sewn crooked. I smiled and fixed it because that's what the strong one did. 23, graduating with honors in a stadium that smelled like sunscreen and new beginnings. I wore the gold cord that said I'd stayed up when others slept. Dad hugged me for exactly 3 seconds. His cologne sharp, his shirt crisp, his love careful. "Don't go on about the scholarships in front of Emily," he murmured into my hair. "It makes her feel small." I laughed like it was nothing, then folded my pride as neatly as the program in my hand. That night, Mom posted a photo from the ceremony with a caption about our girls, plural, a soft focus on family, that blurred the fact that only one of us had sprinted the academic marathon. I let it be. Being the strong one meant not needing the credit. 27, my wedding day. I paid the venue deposit with a pen. I almost snapped, wrote checks for flowers and chairs and a cake that hid a seam with frosting. "Ethan has money," Mom said when I asked if they wanted to contribute anything ceremonial, even a toast. Why would we help? So I covered every bill, tucked the receipts like petals into a folder. I didn't know would one day become a shield. I didn't complain. I thought love earns love. I was wrong. The kettle clicked itself off. The kitchen smelled like lemon soap and last night's toast. I braced my palms on the counter and let the cool laminate ground me. My chest felt like stone, a weight I couldn't exhale. Morning brought something else, an official window envelope with the DMV seal and the particular gravity of government paper. I slid a butter knife under the flap. Notice, duplicate title request Jaguar VN. The letter sat in my mailbox like a small, obedient bomb. Window envelope state seal in the corner, the kind of cheap fibrous paper that scuffs if you look at it too hard. Inside the language was precise and drained of personality. "Your application will process in 7 to 10 business days," it said. Application, process, business days. The return address was my house. The contact email was not mine. I read it 3 times slower each pass like the speed might change the meaning. It didn't. My fingers tightened. The paper gave and creased along my grip, a white scar splitting the printed line. Emily had kept a spare key once, back when I thought closeness was the same as safety. Back when I'd tuck my bag on a chair, rinse a mug at the sink, and say, "Go grab whatever you need from the office," because that's what family does. She'd known which drawer held the registrations, the file tabs I'd labeled in a neat row, taxes, insurance, title, because I liked order and believed order made me safe. She must have photographed the Jaguar registration in that quiet domestic gap while I frothed milk and believed in people. Now she was trying to convert a picture into ownership, the audacity of turning a snapshot into a deed. I carried the letter to the kitchen table and made a small clearing with the heel of my hand pushed back. A salt shaker straightened the coaster, aligned the blue folder parallel to the table edge. Then I picked up the phone. The DMVQ dragged me into its aquarium. Muted jazz burbled under a cheerful robot promising shorter wait times during non-peak hours. "Your call matters to us," said a man whose voice had been recorded in a different decade. I sat there and listened to strangers on the other end of other lines being helped first. That's what hold music is, the sound of someone else's urgency moving ahead of yours. Agent Morales answered on the fourth transfer voice, bright but not brittle. Motor vehicles, this is Morales. How can I help you today? I gave him the letter's reference number and calm as I could told him I had not requested a duplicate title. You could hear him straighten. Okay, let's lock this down. We tangoed through verification license number, last four of the VIN, address history, and then those sideways identity questions that only someone who has paid attention to her own life can answer. Which of these streets have you lived on? Which bank held your auto loan in 2019? I got them right. Of course I did. Thank you, he said, fingers clacking. I'm placing a fraud alert on the title record and freezing changes pending investigation. Any attempts will flag and route to the enforcement desk. You'll get an email confirmation within the hour and a physical letter within 5 to 7 days. Keep both. Don't discard anything, even envelopes. Understood? I repeated the case number back to him until it felt memorized, then wrote it on a sticky note and pressed it onto the blue folder's cover like a new vertebra. The spine of my life reinforced. Life. When the call ended, I didn't sit and ruminate. I stood up and moved. Sometimes motion is the only proof you still own your body. The locksmith's shop was a narrow, competent space that smelled like brass and solvent. Blank keys hung in dense, bright forests behind the counter. A bell chimed when I entered, the sound near and old-fashioned. 3 locks, I said. Front back garage. Today. He nodded, didn't ask for a story, just grabbed a clipboard and a tool roll. On the drive back, he explained options, pin and tumbler, versus high-security restricted keyways, rekeying versus replacing like a person who believes in the dignity of making things work. We chose restricted keys. He spun cylinders with the practiced flick of someone who's met every kind of disaster at a threshold. The new deadbolt seated with satisfying final clicks. I changed the alarm code from Ethan's birthday to a string of numbers. Only my fingers knew a rhythm they would remember after my head forgot. Then I added eyes 2, cameras 1, watching the driveway, 1 covering the back gate. The installer, a patient man with 4 arms like rope, walked me through the app. Green light means online. Clips right to the card and the cloud. Power cut, they still push out. He tightened a bracket and smiled without comfort. It's not about catching, he said. It's about deterrence. Deterrence works on the deterrable, I said before I could stop myself. He paused, met my eyes, and nodded. Then it's about proof. After lunch, I drove to the bank with the Rolex ticking like a small heart in its velvet pouch. The safe deposit corridor was colder than necessary intentionally, so I think to cue seriousness. The manager swiped us through 2 doors and ushered me to a narrow booth. She slid the metal drawer open with a smooth, ceremonial motion and stepped back as if I might need privacy to meet my own precaution. I set the watch inside and felt ridiculous for the shake in my hands. Ethan had saved for it through 3 lean winters commission checks stretched into months of layaway because having something solid on his wrist made bad news less slippery. I wrote the box number twice on the official form and in my notebook then photographed both for an encrypted folder. Belt, suspenders, and a floor that doesn't collapse. Back in the car, I texted Leo, all good. Small hiccup. I love you. The phone rang before the typing bubbles had time to breathe. You sound steady, he said. I'm choosing to be steady. I can fly home if you want. Not yet. Midterms. I've got this. He didn't argue. The quiet on his end, clean, respectful, made room for my own voice to sound certain. Next step, counsel. Anika Patel Estates and Fraud. Her office was an ordered grid matte black frames around diplomas plants that looked watered on a schedule, a glass pen cup with exactly 4 pens, printer toner, and good coffee braided into a scent I associate with competence. She didn't interrupt. She let the story spool dates, names, passwords. I had changed passwords I still needed to change the letter. The cameras, the watch, the way fear had made my hands clumsy for exactly 23 minutes and then left. When I finished, she held out her hand. The blue folder. I slid it over. She read with her mouth set, not grim, just engaged, her eyes moving like a scanner line. She clicked her pen, a small declarative sound. Here's what we're doing. 1 county owner alert enrollment so deed filings ping us within minutes, not days. 2 motor vehicle holds already placed. We'll add certified notices to DMV and your insurer so no release happens without wet ink signature. 3 cease and desist letters to your parents and sister regarding any representation that your assets are available to them. Clear, specific, and trackable. 4, if anyone attempts to access funds, we notify law enforcement and civil counsel immediately, no more warnings. 5, relocate sentimental and high-risk items to the bank. Grief is the thief's favorite cover. And 6, she added, ticking a finger she hadn't initially raised credit monitoring and freezes with the bureaus. USPS informed delivery, so mail tampering pings you, and a password hardening session. We close the side doors and the dog doors both. Will this stop them? My voice surprised me by being small. It will slow them, she said, looking right at me. And it will document them. People like this don't stop at a line unless the line is electrified. My shoulders dropped like someone had cut a string. Electrify it. We sent the letters that afternoon. Certified mail signature required no euphemisms. The clerk stamped each green card with a heavy thunk, the sound of a boundary made visible. I took photos of tracking numbers and slid receipts into the blue folder. Paper armor. Then the week went quiet in the eeriest way. No group chat fireworks, no mother's committee emails CCing me on family matters, no late night "can you talk" texts. Quiet can be peace. It can also be the held breath of a person about to dive. On Friday, the breath snapped. Owner alert, new document submitted for recording quitclaim deed. Grantee Emily Hart and Christopher Hart. Grantor Nora Ann Graves. Property downtown condo parcel, Achar. My name, their names, a transfer I did not sign. The world tipped not enough to spill, just enough to slosh. I slid to the floor with the laptop open and read the email again and again until the letters blurred, then sharpened, refusing to rearrange into sense. When my legs listened again, I stood, grabbed my purse, and drove to the recorder's office. Motion as medicine. The lobby was aggressively neutral gray chairs, a ficus doing its best, a bulletin board of cheerful flyers about serious topics. The clerk wore a tie printed with tiny anchors, a private joke in a place where everyone is trying not to sink. He had that particular fatigue of someone who delivers bad news by procedure. I need a copy of the deed that was submitted, I said, sliding my ID across. My hands were steady. It felt like a miracle. He printed and handed it to me. The paper's weight surprised me the way fiction can feel heavier than truth. My signature stared up, except it wasn't mine. The G looped like a flourish I've never allowed myself. The cross on the T in Graves floated high, ambitious, or nervous. Someone had practiced. Someone had tried to become my hand. Heat rose in my throat. Breathing turned into a task. The clerk's voice anchored me. You can file a fraud affidavit. We'll flag it before recording. Call your attorney and the police. Thank you. I pressed my palm flat to the counter. The laminate was cool, perfectly clean, utterly indifferent. An uncomplicated fact in a day full of complications. Outside, the sky was offensively blue, the kind a painter would be accused of exaggerating. People moved with tote bags and iced coffee and plans for later. Their lives hummed in normal keys. Inside my chest, a small world burned to ash and then cooled into iron. I called Anika. She answered on the first ring. I'm on my way, she said. Do not call your family. Not yet. We do this the clean way. Driving home, I passed the coffee shop where Ethan used to sketch floor plans on napkins, his pencil hopeful. I parked for exactly 1 minute and let the tears come quiet, efficient. Then I breathed and turned the key. The next right thing was waiting. My phone buzzed as I eased into the driveway. Motion detected, back gate. The thumbnail showed a body moving past the camera head, down hoodie up. Timestamp 2:17 p.m. One frame caught a loose ponytail escaping the hood. I knew that hair. Emily. I stepped out of the car and let stillness settle. Gravel clicked back into place under my shoes. The roses along the fence rustled, a practical little breeze sorting leaves. Somewhere a dog barked twice and stopped like even it was listening. Inside the house had that held breath feeling again. The alarm chirped once. I walked my loop entry living room kitchen, palming the familiar edges, the counter lip, the door jamb. Nick, the movers, left the cabinet that never closes on the first try. The safe opened obedient. Documents in their sleeves. Jewelry pouch sealed. Keys sleeping in their dish by the door, one brass tooth bent just slightly from years of turning. Nothing out of place. Somehow that was worse. Violation with gloves on is still violation. At the table, I pulled the blue folder close. The corners were softened like a book that's been read too many times. I slid the deed copy into the stack, squared the edges, and wrote the date in the top right corner. Then slow and neat, I wrote one sentence. They stopped asking. They started taking. The phone buzzed. County attempted deed flagged for fraud on hold pending investigation. Another buzz, Anika police report filed. Do not engage. Security company contact incoming. We will control this. I exhaled and only then realized I'd been hoarding air like currency. The kitchen snapped into microscopic focus, lemon soap, half-used sun caught in the meniscus. The shallow dent in the chair Ethan always claimed. The hairline crack spidering through the ceramic bowl painted with oranges. The tiny silver scratch on the door frame where the movers once clipped it. Ordinary things lit like evidence. I nudged the camera sensitivity up a notch, confirmed clips were writing to the cloud, forwarded the county notice to Anika with one word, received. The kettle clicked off. I hadn't realized I'd turned it on. I poured water I didn't drink and watched the steam thin into nothing. I wasn't scared now. Fear had been expensive, costing sleep judgment whole years I will never be paid back. I was done paying. This was never about a wedding. It was about a pattern I had fed because I thought love meant open doors and unlocked drawers. I had confused kindness with access, apology, with repair, urgency, with importance. Not anymore.